That's right, ladies and gentlemen. After a bit of a hiatus, and I apologize in advance for not telling you guys we were going on one, the Dungeon of the Doctor's Doom is back, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me this week, give it up for my fearless producer, Vinny Santucci. I don't have any nicknames today because I didn't really prepare much. This is going to be the least prepared I've ever been for an episode because, for those who don't know, the reason we're on hiatus is because I was out of the country for 2 weeks. I have no idea what's been happening in American sports, so we're winging it today, boys. But Vinny, say hello to all the Delvers out there, bud.
Oh, hello, Delvers. I'm sorry, I was just finishing singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, because I know we have buffer music, and I just assumed that they're nursery rhymes now. I feel like that's all I hear. But welcome back. It's nice for a change of pace and get to talk about sports and not baby clothes.
Oh yeah, we can talk about baby clothes. You want to talk about? Cool. What's your favorite brand? Oshkosh Bagosh, is that still a thing?
Oshkosh Bagosh is still a thing. Yes,
nice.
But yeah. No, you'd be surprised that apparently like a infant onesie by like good brand, like just good brands, feels good, soft, anywhere between $50 and $60. You're trying to figure out like, is this Gucci, Prada? Like what are we doing here? So I guess it's not until they are kids that things get cheap. But yeah, enough of that. We do not need to talk about that for sure.
All right, fair enough. Then let's talk about baseball then, because Mitch isn't here. He's going to be joining us a little later, allegedly, but he's not a big baseball guy. Vinny and I are probably more into baseball than him. So let's talk baseball. Any thoughts about the season so far? Because it's just recently kicked off. Before I go into the thing that I told you I was going to talk about.
No, not really. I mean, are we surprised that the number one spending team in the country continues to be the most dominant? And I have a lot to say about just baseball in general. Dakota was asking me about it. My wife was asking me about it earlier, and I was like, yeah, but it's all just like it's just a farce. It's like there's a reason that nobody watches it anymore, and it's because there's no cap limit. And until there's cap limits or there's spending requirements, the baseball will just always be the least interesting sport to me. But the Angels have a 500 record, and that's all I care about. So go Angels without Ohtani.
Yeah, got to be rough to be to be a fan of the LA team that's not the Dodgers. I mean, not that the Angels are in LA, but that's their name now. Back in my day, it was the California Angels, then the Anaheim Angels, then the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and I don't even know what they are now. I think they're just like the LA Angels. But
I think they're still the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I think it's still kind of weird, but
for those who've never been to California, the reason we bring this up is the Angels are not in Los Angeles. Kind of like the Giants and the Jets in football are not in New York; they're in New Jersey. The Angels are in Anaheim. It's a different city. So
how about this? Okay, baseball has no payroll cap. Now they do have luxury tax caps, which I'm pretty sure the penalty is quite harsh in baseball. But when you don't really care because you're making a ton of money, you don't really care. So the Dodgers 2026 payroll projection is $397 billion. How many teams do you think are within $100 million of spending?
So you're really only going to be looking at like the big market teams, like the Bankies. I would say there's maybe 3 teams within $100 million of the Dodgers.
So you think that there's 3 teams between 297 and 397?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, really good guess. There's 2 teams, the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah. So like I said, the big city squads.
How many teams do you think have more than half the payroll of the Dodgers? So roughly within 200 million.
It's not going to be as many as people might think. I'm going to say like 12, because what people don't realize is like a lot of these smaller market teams, like the Kansas Cities, the Detroits, the Cincinnatis, they're not going to spend that big money. Even when they're good, it's not like the Braves. Even when the Braves are good, it's not because they spent $300 million.
Yeah, actually, you are correct. There are 10 teams, so not quite 12, but you've been off by 1 basically each time. So yeah, 10 teams. There's 11 total teams that spend $200 million or more. So the Dodgers at 397, and then if you're in 12th, That's the Boston Red Sox at 196. So less than two, so a $201 million difference. So if you cut the Dodgers payroll in half, there's only 10 other teams in the Major League Baseball that are still within that frame. So listen, I'm going on a little bit of a mini rant about why I hate baseball, but that's just the competitive balance is just crap. You
Well,
know,
and
like
there's a
the
reason the
Dodgers are
Dodgers have won
13
the
and
last two
4.
World Series, right? Like the team that pays the most money has won the last two championships. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way, but usually the team spending the most money is the team that is at the top of the mountain, or at least near the top of the mountain. And yeah, it's not exactly buying a championship, but it's as close as you can get to buying a championship.
Yeah. And if this ever got on like the international scale, because obviously, at some point, I'm sure people in France are going to be listening to the Dungeon podcast, but the same can be said with the Premier League and La Liga and Bundesliga and uh, you know La Liga. Yeah, it's just because at the end of the day, those are very money driven sports without a cap, right? And they just buy championships. But then you get that like random Cinderella story that comes in every once in a while. And we all like really like that in baseball too, when the team that's not supposed to win kind of gets close. But yeah, that's just not how we operate in American sports. And so it's a hard bargain to get behind. But I digress.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, there's a reason that other sports have salary caps, and they're more balanced or entertaining in general. Yeah, that it is what it is. Baseball's probably always going to be this way because, look, in collective bargaining, there's no way the players are ever going to want to agree to a salary cap. That's just not
Right.
something they're going to want to put in place. It's the Pandora's box situation. Once the box is open, you can't close it. And baseball's box has been open from the beginning. So
Yeah, no.
yeah,
And the Dodgers could be the smartest franchise of all time. I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani, who literally generates so much revenue from, East Asian markets, as, obviously Japan in particular, but literally has worldwide interest. And they're like, we'll give him $1 billion. We'll give him a blank check, basically. Because now we're the Dodgers, we're a huge market. The Angels should have given him just as much, but then they should, if you're going to give a guy that much money, then you also need to commit to spending enough money to win a championship. And we could be talking about things differently, but the guy is so good that he pays for the luxury tax himself. Just with the amount of extra revenue he
and the
generates
Angels, and
outside.
not to put salt in the wound here, Ben, but the Angels are the perfect example of why the salary cap situation is the problem. If you look at who the best player in baseball has been over the last 10 seasons, they've been on the Angels. So Mike Trout, and then it was Shohei Ohtani. The best player
Yep.
in baseball over the last decade has been on the Angels, and the Angels have never been, not never, but they haven't been relevant in that decade as far as like competing for a
They
championship.
literally were on the same team.
Yeah, on the same team.
Statistically speaking, two of the greatest baseball players of all times. Like Mike Trout, before like the most recent years of injuries, his win above replacements, his WAR was like better than any other player historically, besides like Babe Ruth. And
And
then
if
they
you
got
if
Shohei
you're listening to
Ohtani,
this
who did the
podcast and you're
same
not a
exact
baseball
thing.
fan, sorry Ben, just real quick, if you're listening to this podcast not a baseball fan, you're wondering who is Mike Trout? I've never heard of him. It's because he played for the Angels, is why you've never heard of him. But the guy was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, literally untouchable for a solid 10 years, and then they got Shohei Ohtani, who might go down if his career stays on the same path, will probably go down as the greatest baseball player of all time. So you have one of the greatest, if not the greatest outfielder of all time in Mike Trout, and another possibly greatest baseball player of all time. And you're like, oh, these two were on the same team. Surely they went to the playoffs and won. No, they never even made it to the playoffs. Like they just didn't. I think they made it to like a wild card round or like the one game play in and then lost. But yeah, nope, just absolutely abysmal. Um, I hate that we're even talking about baseball. I hate that the word baseball, I guess, was even brought up, even though I know this isn't even the topic. But now I'm like rage clicking.
I know, and in my defense, I was not planning on using the Angels as an example, but they were just the perfect example for the topic that you brought up.
Yes, no, no, trust me, I get it. There's a reason that I don't even get like notifications on my phone about what the score is anymore. I just like look every once in a while to see what the Angels standings are, but they have not earned my money. I had a friend who had season tickets to the Angels for like 10 years, and I just saw him the other day and I was like, "Hey, did you renew your tickets?" He's like, "No, why would I? Like they refuse to do anything to improve this team. Why would I give them my money?" And I was like, "That's a very fair statement."
And
So,
that kind of lends itself to the problem of having a league where there's no salary cap, but having revenue sharing with regards to the television rights, because you can have these teams that don't have to pay their player. Like the Rays are the best example of this. They bought a championship and sold their roster. They did it twice in the 2000s, right? Like that's what they do. They don't pay their players at all. They have like the cheapest roster in baseball, but they're getting the same cut of the TV deal as the Dodgers are. So why would they bother?
yeah. Yeah. By the way, it is official. Mike Trout and the Angels, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani never made the playoffs together. As a matter of fact, their team never even had more than a 500 win percentage. The Angels have not had an over 500 win percentage since 2015. And people are wondering why I'm going on this rant. But again, dude, it is a terrible time to be a sports fan in the world of Vinny Santucci. The fact that I'm like my number one team is the Lakers right now, like they're the only team that's actually relevant, is super sad. And before Luca, they were completely irrelevant. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I'm not about
you
to
know,
let you have a Laker pity
ABS,
party with me,
ABS,
but I'm going to
ABS.
stick it on baseball. I so wanted to bite on that Lakers hook, but I'm going to stay with baseball. So, we will talk about the new thing in baseball, which is the ABS. And I know what you're saying, like, Alex, why are you talking about baseball? Because we can. It's a sports podcast, and you'll get a little NFL action later. But ABS. So what is the ABS? Well, it is a new system in baseball that is allowing them to challenge balls and strikes. It's an automated ball strike, is what it stands for. And basically now when the pitch comes in, the umpire calls ball, the umpire calls strike, the player has an opportunity to challenge that call, and then it'll go to a replay, and you see the magic box on the screen, and you can see whether or not it was actually a ball or a strike. And the call can be overturned. So before I go into my rant about it, Vinny, what are your thoughts on the ABS? Do you think it's good for, or bad for baseball? How do you think about the implementation so far? Does it affect the pace of play? What are your thoughts on it, from what you've seen?
Uh, I don't hate it because I mean I think there's a limit to it, right? I believe that they only get two per game, and it's very similar to professional football, where I believe if you win a successful one, you keep it.
Yeah, it's a make it
So
take it situation, like in a pickup game. If you get it right, you get to keep going.
yeah, I don't hate it because every once in a while there are some pretty egregious ones. I just find it hilarious that every time I see stuff, the pitcher kind of tells the catcher to challenge it, and then the catcher can challenge it. Um, tells them, and I've seen a lot of like accidental challenges where it's like, you know, the pitcher's just kind of adjusting their hat. The catcher thinks they want to challenge, and then they challenge. So I don't hate it because now if it was like you could do it on repeat as many times as you want, then we'd have issues. But you know, two per game, you kind of still have to you'd be kind of judicious about when you want to use it or not use it. So I don't have much of an issue now. If it gets a little out of hand, then yes. But at the same time, I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made that if you're just going to have ABS, why have umpires in the first place?
Yeah, that's going to be part of my rant. And before I get into that, though, speaking of, you mentioned accidental challenges, there was a hilarious clip the other day where a batter gets called for a strike three. In frustration, he tries to challenge, but immediately puts his hound down and says, "No, I don't want to," and tries to walk to the dugout for the strikeout. And the ump makes him use the challenge because he initially said it, even though he didn't want to. Challenge successful, strike overturned, it's a ball, he has to go back to the plate. Like, it was like the ump was just trying to get the team to use their challenge to not have to deal with it the rest of the game, and then the challenge ended up being right in the first place. It's like everyone was wrong in the scenario. The batter challenged it, and it was a good challenge, but then he wanted to not have it challenged and be out. The umpire made him take the challenge. Then it ended up being successful. The batter had to go back to the plate. Now, I don't know what happened after that because I was too busy laughing at like the whole scenario. So he may have ended up striking out or something anyway, but the whole thing was just ridiculous. But yeah, so let me give you my kind of take on it. I'll give the pros and the cons. Pros, it is very quick. I know a lot of the issue with replay, especially in things like NFL, challenges take forever, right? Because it's still subjective. This is using an automated system, kind of like if you've ever watched the tennis automated system, where it shows where the ball hits on the court and rules in or out. It takes like 20 seconds total. So they're very quick. It does not slow the game down, and I do appreciate that. I also appreciate that you have a limited number of these challenges, so that you can't just do it over and over and over. What I don't like is what you mentioned is, what's the point of having an umpire? If you can have this automated system that's always right, because I mean, we're assuming they're always right if the challenge is, you always go with what the machine says, not what the umpire says. If you have this automated system that can see every ball and strike, why do we even bother having an umpire in the first place, right? So if we're going to have an umpire, then you have to let him call the game, because that's always been a part of the game. All these records and all the things we have, like these great hitters that drew a ton of walks, these great pitchers that got a ton of strikeouts, it's based on not just playing the player at the plate, but you're playing the umpire. It's kind of like when you're playing poker, right? You're not just playing your hand, you're playing the players, right? So catchers, for example, one of the great things about catchers is how they frame the ball. For those who don't know, the catcher will catch the ball and then quickly try to slide his hand into where it would look like a strike if it's not. It's called framing the pitch. The best catchers can do it so subtly the umpires don't notice, and sometimes look down, see where the glove is, and call a strike, right? You're taking that skill away from catchers because framing the ball is less important when you can just call a challenge, right? You're taking away the importance of the umpire if you can just overturn what he says. Now, I get that refs can be bad, and we want to have good refereeing in sports. There are definitely bad umpires. The guy that took away Armando Galarraga's perfect game all those years ago, like, most egregious call I've ever seen in sports, right? Like, there are bad umpires who shouldn't be doing what they do, but also, like, as long as you're consistent, that's fine. Like, when you're an umpire calling balls and strikes, it doesn't matter if your strike zone is too big or too small, as long as it's consistent for the entire game, right? Like, if you throwing it at the shoulders is called a strike when it shouldn't be, that's fine as long as he calls every ball at the shoulders a strike, right? And so, like, that's part of the game. Different umpires, it adds to the game of baseball. I think you're taking away from America's pastime and this old sport with this, like, it's our oldest sport. It's got all of our ancient records. Like, I think you take away from it by automating the system. So while I do think there are benefits to this system, I think overall it's not helpful, because it either needs to be an all or nothing for me. Either you use the system and this is how you call balls and strikes now, or you don't use it and look, sometimes umps are going to calls wrong.
Yeah. No. I kind of agree. I think I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It has to be all or nothing. I don't think you can just put your toe in the water and call it okay. The one thing that is kind of a rule of thumb when it comes to baseball is, like, granted you have a strike zone. I've also seen, by the way, the ABS is I believe they take it at the middle of the plate. And so even per the rules of what is a strike or not a strike, I believe ABS has incorrect calculations. It's not just a gross, is it a strike based on the description. I saw, like, there was a pitch that was questionable, that was, I can't remember, ruled one way versus the other, and actually per the rule in baseball, should have been the opposite call, but they kind of just draw a line over the middle of the plate for the ABS challenge. But
yeah, and to that point, Benny, real quick, not to cut you up, but just like, because the plate isn't square, right? Like, ABS, like, looks at it straight up as if it's a square, but it's not. You can throw a curveball that misses the front half of the plate, then curves in, but still isn't a strike because it curves where the plate tapers off into a triangle, right? Like, you can still, the ball can end up towards the middle of the plate, but not actually cross the plate. And ABS is just going to show where it ended up, like you said. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No. So, yeah, I believe that a strike zone, the official strike zone, is the area over home plate from the midpoint between a batter's shoulders and the top of the uniform pants. And with that said, that means anywhere over home plate, right? So it's an imaginary I guess, like cube almost, maybe more of like a rectangular, three-dimensional area. And so if it passes in the strike zone anywhere on the plate, it is a strike. And by picking a singular point, if the ball is breaking too much, then it won't be calculated a swing in the ABS. And so I think that is just like, do we not have the technology to take, cross sections? You know what I mean? Like if we're going to do the ABS, are we not even going to do it right? But again, I think historically speaking in sports, and you can either be a purist or not, but historically speaking in sports, each umpire is different. Umpires call zones. Every once in a while you're like, oh, that ump definitely favored the other team, but you would like to think they're as unbiased possible. So in a perfect world, they're unbiased. And every once in a while, it's like, hey, that guy's been calling the outside corner all day, even if it's like a hair off. Like, and they're very consistent. Hey, this ump has been calling it low. Hey, this ump has a super tight strike zone and isn't calling corners or edges. And like teams know that. So like I don't understand, like everybody's still getting the same strike zone with the same umpire. Every once in a while there's an egregious call. There's an egregious call in every single sport. You know? That doesn't one call never makes or break a game. I don't care what anybody says. Even, us when it goes against the grain, you're like, oh, that call was so bad, it ruins the game. But if you're gonna isolate a single game to one single play or one single pitch, over the course of a 4-hour affair, then that's just a simple-minded approach, in my opinion. So I'm with you, Alex. It's either you're all in on not having somebody behind the plate and just a robot calling balls and strikes, and you're to the letter using this as the strike zone, or you get rid of it completely. I think the ABS is kind of dumb.
Yeah, I just like I said, it takes too much out of the game to have it be automated and robotic, because that's not what the game is. That's not what any game is. There's the referees are part of the game, whether we like them or not. I mean, heck, part of enjoying a game is getting to yell at the referee. I can't yell at a robot. Well, I mean, I can, but I just look like a crazy person. You know, I want to be able to yell at the referee when he makes a mistake. And yes, it is a thankless job, because if the referee calls a perfect game, ain't nobody giving him props. But still, that's part of the game. And yeah, refs can make boneheaded calls, but this doesn't even necessarily prevent against that, because like you said, you only get so many challenges. What if the team burns through their challenges in the first 4 innings, and there's a boneheaded call in the ninth that changes the game? You can't challenge it. So it didn't matter that you had this system in place, because even though the system can see, oh, that's a blown call, well, team's out of challenges, so it doesn't matter, right? So, like I said, I think it's either an all or nothing, and for me, if I had to pick, because I'm more of a old school purist, I would say nothing. I'd be okay with all. Like I would prefer nothing, but I would still prefer all than the system we have now, where it's like you get a couple of challenges a game. Either you have the technology and you should use it, or you don't and you shouldn't.
Yeah. By the way, I'd like to addend something I said earlier when reading the definition. It is the top half is from the halfway point between the batter's shoulder and top of uniform pants, and the bottom is just below the kneecap.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you said that, I was like, I'm pretty sure it goes to the knees, but I was like,
Yeah,
I wasn't
no, no.
gonna.
But I was just kind of reading the first line. By the way, this is on MLB.com's website, and it says midpoint between a batter's shoulders and top of the uniform pants when the batter is in his stance and prepared to swing at a pitch ball, and a point just below the kneecap. I just think it is hilarious how vague both the top half and the bottom half of that is when it comes to calling balls and strikes.
Well,
But
and that's the reason, right? That an umpire's judgment should be a part of it, because the rule itself isn't night and day. It's kind of like pass interference in football. Like, the reason you have to have a ref judge it and you can't automate the system is because, like, it is a judgment call, right? Balls and strikes are a judgment call. Because based on what you do, if I go up there and I just squat to where my knees are in my shoulders, I have no strike zone by that written rule, right?
yeah,
If I squat in the batter's box to where my shoulders are touching my knees, I'd have to be more flexible than I am, but these guys are athletes. There's plenty of them that can do it. I theoretically do not have a strike zone. And every pitch to me is a ball. That's
yeah.
why there's
I
that's why
also
there's the spirit of the law as well as the letter of the law, and I think the umpire falls into the spirit of the law category.
Yeah, I just have vague problems kind of all the way around in some sports sometimes where, I know that there's always rules that improve play, but we can even take this to football and talk about how we've changed kickoff and kickoff returns and extra points and field goals and the rules just so differently, right? That now you can't even play the comparison game. I mean, just the fact that now we have like kicking balls that are specific to kicking that are supposed to help kickers kick further and be more accurate, and now we got guys kicking like 70-yard field goals, so like you don't even need to cross the halfway point to be within field goal range, which is pretty wild. Um, but different sports. But then following baseball, like even what 3 years ago, I think they put a limit to defensive shifts because the shift was ruining baseball because they put a guy. Basically what they would do is they would take away pull hitters. And I'm like, wait, time out. Could you imagine if in basketball you were like, hey, by the way, you can't double team that guy. Like that's illegal. No, one person at a time. Oh, you want to switch the zone? Nope, penalty. Like it's just so strange that it's like within the letter of the law, teams can position, or soccer, for example. What if like a team just decided they wanted to run 8 defensive players and 3 guys up front, and you'd be like, whoa, no, this is ruining the integrity of the game. Or 8 guys up front and 3 guys back, and they're just attacked the whole time. You're not going to sit here and say that. But now baseball's like, you know what? Our pull hitters, and because our hitters have become not quality baseball players anymore. It's just home run or not, and we can only hit to one side of the field. We're going to ban the shift because baseball's not as exciting anymore because defense has gotten too good at what they do and offense has gotten too one-dimensional. So I don't know. I feel like baseball now I'm not realizing this, but maybe there's a lot of reasons why I don't enjoy watching baseball anymore. Maybe I'm just like this is getting so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, baseball. It's ironic, right? Because baseball wants more runs, wants more offense, so that's why they do things like that. But I don't know about you, but to me, the most interesting baseball is when someone has a no-no going. Like if you text me and it's like the fifth or sixth inning, and you're like, "Hey, so and so's got a no-hitter going," I'm turning on that baseball game. If you text me and say, "Yo, it's 8-7 in the fifth," I have zero interest in that game. Right? Like I don't care that there's a lot of scoring. I care about like a pitcher's duel. Like that's what's cool to me. That's like purist baseball, and I think there's might be more people like me that care about that than they do about the high scoring baseball games, and that's why like these high scoring rules they're implementing are aggravating old school people like me. And it's like, well, hey, you got to go with the times. It's a young man's game. Well, yeah, baseball isn't watched by young people. That's the problem. You're alienating your
Yeah.
old audience. And also as far as like the whole like the challenge limit thing, the reason we have challenge limits in football is because they take forever. A challenge in football literally takes 5 minutes minimum. Like it I mean, they shouldn't. That's another argument for another time. But like the whole ABS system, like it takes 15 seconds for a challenge. So it's not like it takes a ton of time the same way it does with football. So that's why I don't think you necessarily need the limits. Or maybe if you don't do all or nothing, maybe make it like 10 instead of 2. Something to make it where like it actually can impact the entirety of the game as opposed to like, okay, we used our 2 challenges in the first 3 innings and now we got nothing anyway.
Yeah. How about the fact that you know that the baseball changes on a year-to-year basis?
Like, do I know like the rules changes each year or something? Is that what you're asking me?
No, no, the baseball changes.
Well, yeah, because like it's like manufactured differently each time, right?
Yeah, like it's not even like a standardized baseball. It's just the baseball changes. Like it is like a known fact that there are anomalies within baseball. There's been reports that even one year they used 3 different types of baseballs within the same season. They changed the grips. They changed the pop in the ball or the drag or the light. Like it is a wild, wild thing. I actually talked to somebody who was a professional baseball player at the in the highest level. Started center fielder for one of the best teams in the league, and I was talking to him. And for rule bases, I can't say in what setting or what capacity or who they were, but uh, he was like, "Listen, it is a known fact that if it is a year of pitchers, and like all of us agree in the MLB, if it's a year of pitchers and big name pitchers about to be on free agency, they give a lively ball because they don't want contracts to be high. And if it's a year of home run hitters and shortstops and outfielders, then they'll deaden the ball to try to reduce the stats. And so there's like this subtle manipulation that they all think is happening like behind closed doors. And there's like these kind of internal conspiracy theories in the major leagues. And so just the fact that we even have this conversation of changing baseball, I don't know how I'm going on these diatribes. I guess I'm just
You're filling
spending
in for
my
Mitch. You're filling in for Mitch on
I'm
the.
spending my forum talking crap about why baseball sucks and why nobody really watches it anymore. Because you can't even have the same product year to year. Uh, so
I just think it's funny that Mitch isn't here and you're the one doing a conspiracy theory. Speaking of Mitch not being here, he was supposed to be here after a half hour. We're now 50 minutes past the hour. Not 50 minutes in the pod, 50 minutes past the hour. So he late. Big surprise. All right, then we'll move on to basketball then, unless you have anything else to rant about baseball. I think I've got you worked up enough. Maybe we can get something that's less aggravating to
yeah,
you.
yeah. I'm rubbing my earlobes like Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys.
All right. Okay, so let's move to basketball. We are getting into playoff time. In fact, there's a play-in game happening right now, Magic and Sixers. So let me go to the bracket here. And I'm gonna begrudgingly talk about my boy Luca once again. Just so frustrating, Luca being a Laker. I don't like I said, I didn't want to hear you complaining about your only good team being the Lakers because it's like, yeah, must be real nice that you got Luca for free. Here's what I wanted to rant about. Do you know who the scoring leader is this year?
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
But do you know who actually led the league in scoring? Like, or sorry, points per game.
Oh, did it end up being Luca?
It's Luca. But you know what? He can't get the scoring title because he played one game too few. There is a rule in the NBA because they were trying to prevent players from sitting out and taking rest days because that's bad for their product. That if you don't play a set amount of games, you're not eligible for things like being All NBA first team, things like that. So Luca, even though he carried the Lakers to the 4 seed in the West, which is generally speaking the stronger conference, even though he is the scoring leader, even though he would easily be first team All NBA, he's not going to get any of those accolades because he played one game too few, and his wasn't due to rest, his was due to a legit injury. So I just think, I can't help but wonder if there needs to be a better way to handle players taking rest games. Because, like, I understand they don't want to reward players for sitting out. Like, it's one thing to take away, like, hey, you can't be first team All NBA, but things like a scoring title or a rebound title or an MVP, what have you, like, if you're still the best player, even though you didn't play, you only played, I think the number is 65 games you have to play to hit the numbers. Like,
Yeah.
if you play 60 games and you still have the most points, even though other guys played 80, you should get the scoring title.
Yeah.
So I just think it's wild. Go ahead.
And I'm not sure if the appeal's already happened, but I think he is planning to appeal. Um, but yeah. So my favorite part is, have you seen some of the uproar about this? I mean, I understand why they did it, but have you seen the uproar as to like why people are really pissed off about it? Have you seen the comparison between Luca and Victor Wembanyama?
No, but go for it. Love to hear it.
Oh, great. So Victor Wembanyama participated in 65 games. He made the cutoff. Okay.
Yeah, that is the magic number, by the way, 65.
Luca, 64 games. Guess how many minutes Luca played in those 64 games?
Oh, I bet he played almost the whole game every game.
2,289 minutes. Okay. 2289. Remember that number. Guess how many minutes Victor Wembanyama played in his 65 games?
1,500.
1866. 400 less minutes. So if we're looking at that as like a percentage basis, that's like 400 out of 22. So somewhere
And
between
for context, an
1/5
NBA
and
game,
1/6.
an NBA game is 48 minutes, so you're talking about like 9 less games.
Yeah, it's almost not quite. It's almost 20% less minutes than Luca played. But he's eligible just because he played in 65 games. He showed up for 65 games. And so, it's actually quite remarkable. There's like a whole uproar over Adam Silver needs to fix this. Like they've basically walked themselves into a corner here. Anybody that watches the NBA knows that I mean, even this whole lottery system, because they're just trying to prevent taking, is so funny. Like the fact that you can have like the worst record in basketball and still get like the 10th pick is just hilarious to me. Um, you know, and they're talking about reducing it further because of how teams are like blatantly tanking. And say what you want about the competitive balance, but I'm like, I don't know, is that not kind of part of it? Um, so I don't know. It is yeah, this whole minute thing is pretty crazy. I actually want to see league leaders minutes played NBA. Let's see. Do we have this available?
I mean, I'm sure there's a way to see it. I just don't know. Like, I mean, I can see minutes per game, like on this website. But so Luka averages 36 minutes a game in the games he plays, right? Like, again, that's he basically plays 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Which for those who don't know, that's a lot. It's the most on his team. It's not like people sit in basketball. You don't play the full 48 minutes. I was joking when I said that.
Yeah, he's actually fourth in minutes played on the season. So the only people more is Tyrese Maxey, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant. Wow, Houston must have zero depth because two of the top three players. Holy crap! Three of the top 8 players in minutes played are all on Houston. Um, oh wait, I can go to totals. Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, Luca is going to be 37th in the league on total minutes played, and not a single player above him has less games than him. Let's actually go down the list to see
And again,
when does the next player.
hey, I just want to point. I got to trigger you as an Angel fan. You get to trigger me now as a Mavs fan. Offensive leaders, most points per game, Luka. Assist, third in assists, Luka. 3-pointers made, second in threes made per game, Luka. Like Luka was an absolute monster offensively, and we gave him away for literal nothing.
And Anthony Davis. He's
Oh yeah, is he on here somewhere? Oh no, that's right. He's not even a Mav anymore. God.
Yeah. So Luca was 37th in total minutes. The next person who technically isn't qualified is now down at 57th. So 20 players left. Cade Cunningham, 64 games, 2,100 minutes. Then you get Devin Booker, 64 games, 2,100 minutes. Anthony Edwards, 61 games, also 2,100 minutes. So the amount of players that are sitting here just averaging a ton of minutes, but then also, still with more. Oh my gosh, Wembanyama is way down here in minutes. He's 103rd in minutes played, but he technically qualifies. Uh, and mind you, there's 150 starters in this league, so that's pretty crazy. So out of 150 starters, Luka is 37th in minutes played. Wembanyama is 103rd. Wembanyama gets into the conversation for All NBA and MVP, and Luka doesn't. We all get what they're trying to do. We
should point out, by the way, this isn't a knock on Wembanyama, because if you look at defensive leaders, fourth in rebounds, first in blocks, like he's a dog too, just on the other side of the ball. So let's be clear, we're not knocking Wemby. We're knocking the system. Yeah.
And like, we can all sit here and talk about the fact that we're definitely not going to knock Wemby, because there's no world in which we would expect a guy like Wembanyama, a 7'8", absolutely
my knees
freak
hurt just watching
center.
him stand up. Yeah.
Yeah. You would never expect a center to get as many minutes as a point guard or a shooting guard or a small, it just doesn't happen. So we're not going to sit here and play the comparison game. But, it's easier to lug 150 pounds up and down a court versus, well, that's actually a bad example, because it's not like Wembanyama weighs more than 150 pounds either. But
no, he's a wet twig.
Centers versus like guards. So it's not like an apples to apples comparison. But the system is broken, and it's not Wemby's fault. It's the league's fault. Like, he's just going to be the comparator. Nobody is saying it from a position of Wembanyama doesn't deserve it. We're all saying it from a position of pretty sure we all think that Luka deserves to be in this conversation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that he's not eligible, like that's just it's just not right. But that is what it is. Like look at the average minutes. He's top. Is this top five? He's top five in minutes played per game.
Yeah, he's third. Yeah, it's wild. Um, and then you look at like offensive efficiency. I don't even know what this computes, but I'm just looking at the NBA stats. Like Jokic, Doncic, SGA, Victor Wembanyama are your top four. Of those, one guy is not up for consideration because of one game. I did hear that they were trying to appeal based on the fact that maybe he had to like go to like the birth of his child, and they were they're saying that's an unavoidable circumstance, but it seems that he already lost this appeal if I'm reading everything correctly. So uh, fun times.
Yeah.
How about the fact that Jokic is playing 34.8 minutes a game as a center? So there goes my whole argument about
Yeah, but like
uh, what
he's
people
a
can or can't do.
he fits his frame, for lack of a better way to say it. Like when you look at guys like Yao Ming and Wemby, guys who are just super tall and lanky, they don't fit their frame. Their body's kind of wonky. Jokic fits his frame. He's just a big dude. He's got meat on his bones too. Like he's just a big guy. That's just how he's built. So I think he's able to go more in general than some of these other guys. Also, he's asked to do more because he is one of the best players in the league, arguably the best. So
Yeah.
let's while
Yeah.
we're here, let's go ahead and look at
Um,
the playoff bracket and how you think it's going to go here. We got some play-in games happening right now, so we don't know who the 8 seeds are going to be because that makes sense. Play-in games in basketball, but play-in games are happening right now. But looking at the brackets, what are your thoughts? We can start with the West if you want, since that's where your Lakers play.
I Yeah, I think the West is a two-horse race. I think it's the Spurs and the Thunder. I think the Nuggets can surprise the Spurs. I think they've actually beat them 3 or 4 times this year. But it's a consolation prize in the West. I just don't see anybody beating the Thunder in a 7 game series. Um, they proved how dominant they are, top to bottom. They paid all their guys to keep them on the roster for a while. So I think it's going to be a Thunder party in the West until we see otherwise. Uh, and I don't see any realistic upsets on the bracket. Now, if Luca and Austin Reeves can't play, maybe the Rockets beat the Lakers, but fully healthy, it should be the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed in the West. And I think the East is maybe a little bit more competitive. Uh, you've got the Pistons who are new to kind of the 1 seed and being even relevant in the Eastern Conference. You have the Celtics who traded away most of their roster and let free agents walk because Jason Tatum is out for the year with an Achilles tear, and somehow they still ended up as a 2 seed. That's probably the most frustrating thing in the world. You like lose your star player, you let some of your other key starters and bench players walk, and then you're still a 2 seed. So I don't know how you feel. I mean, as a sports fan, imagine you see what the Mavs have done. Mavs fell off the face of the earth when they got rid of Luca, and meanwhile the Celtics are the 2 seed in the East.
Well, keep it. I mean,
This is
you keep saying it's like it's their fault they're the 2 seed. I mean, keep in mind that this isn't like March Madness where seeding is based on how we think they're going to do. That they finished second in the East. That's why they're the 2 seed.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying is like they still won a lot of games without their star player, and I'm not kidding. Like I thought that they were just like folding it in. They let key players walk, and somehow they just had players that just stepped up and took the reins, to finish as the second seed in the East. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like the East competitively usually isn't as strong. Um,
I
you
also think
know,
that there's something to be said in sports for good franchises. The Celtics are a good franchise. There's a reason that they are always competitive. So when they let those players walk and had players step up, I think they saw that as a possibility, as an opportunity when they made those decisions. Unlike other teams that just like willy nilly give away their best players and then suck for years. Like the
yeah,
Celtics are a well run organization. There's a reason that they're always here.
yeah. No, I agree. It's just not something you commonly see, right?
No, for sure, for sure.
But yeah, no, I think the East, yeah, it'll be really interesting. I don't have enough insight to really predict how it's going to shake out. I mean, the Pistons have been a very good team, but I wouldn't be surprised with the Cavs' kind of star power that they upset them in the second round. And I think the Knicks are still solid, and I think that the Knicks and Celtics would be a really good series if it gets there. And I could see the Knicks kind of being the team that represents the Eastern Conference in the championship, even though they're the three finished the third best record. Now I feel like I'm like over analyzing how I would normally say things. Thanks, Alex.
You're welcome. Yeah, full disclosure, I didn't watch like a ton of basketball this year, but I will say from what I have seen, it wouldn't surprise me if 6 of these teams were in the championship from the East. Like I could see that happening, right? For like a lot of the teams on this list.
Yeah, I would probably put it at 4 teams, all of which probably just get absolutely steamrolled by whoever represents the West.
100%. Yes,
Um,
I will also agree that no matter who gets there from the East, it doesn't matter.
yeah, I think that's just kind of the power divide right now in basketball. But yeah, I think the Cavs are kind of the cutoff. I think there's a pretty big drop off to the Raptors and the Hawks. You know, but yeah, I would not be surprised if it's any of those teams. I mean, the Cavs have a good roster, and they got Donovan Mitchell, and the Pistons have Cade Cunningham, who's very very good at basketball. Um, but then they Celtics Jalen. But I think each of them. I mean, if you're looking for probably the best top to bottom team in the East, you're probably still thinking it's the Knicks. But obviously the Pistons um, finished with a pretty sizable advantage, I believe. I think they had like a 4 or 5 game uh, lead going into the playoffs. I think they were kind of a runaway 1 seed. But
I
but
also just
yeah,
can't I can't buy into the Knicks just until they do it because like they're every year that it's like, hey, this is the year they're good, they get bounced in the first round. You know what I mean? It's like until I see the Knicks do it, I can't like get behind them no matter how good their team looks.
oh yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the Knicks are the most. I mean, not the Knicks. The Pistons are the most well-rounded team, but I mean, Cade Cunningham is really good at basketball. He's actually very good at. I just don't see them as a team that has like enough top to bottom to get through the Eastern Conference. So yeah, I think it's a lot more wide open in the East, like we said, than in the West. So it'll be kind of fun to watch that. And let's be real, most of us are all watching basketball for the first time this year in the playoffs. And another rant, I just forgot how long the NBA playoffs go on for. Holy hell. It is like you got the play-in games, and then you have what, 4 7 game rounds? What is the NBA? We're starting in, let
It's
me see,
early
what is the,
April, and when you think NBA playoffs, you think June, right? That's what you
yeah,
think of.
the NBA Finals, the game 7. So the playoffs have already started. Okay. Do you know when game 7 is scheduled for the NBA Finals? June 16th, 2 months. It is from start to finish. The NBA playoffs is longer than 2 months. So, it goes on for far too long. But hopefully we all stay interested long enough to care about what happens. I'm interested starting in the first round because the Lakers seem to never make it out of the first round. So I'm stuck watching a Lakers series in the first round every year. And then after that, things kind of get a little bit spicy when you've got like the 1 versus the 4 and the 2 versus the 3. So, but yeah, I just remember thinking like, man, we're still talking about the NBA playoffs, this long later. Now I know why. It's a solid 2 months of just NBA playoffs. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think the NBA just saw the opportunity to capitalize on the vacuum of sports, right? Like you're gonna have the NBA, the NFL draft. Like free agency was a few weeks ago, like the big free agency stuff. Then there's a little hype around the draft, and that's it for the NFL for a while. MLB, you have the opening week of baseball, but then like people don't super care right until you get towards the All Star break. Hockey also has playoffs going around at the same time, but generally speaking, you either are a fan of hockey or basketball, not both. because of they're very different sports and they happen at the same time. So this is a period of time, and March Madness is over. This is a period of time where there's no other major sport on TV, and you can be the one draw that everyone's watching. You can dominate the headlines.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you had to pick your final four, I'll go ahead and say mine. I'm going to say Thunder and Nuggets from the West, and I'll say Pistons and I'll say Celtics. I'm going to keep it going from the East. Who you got?
I'll go Thunder. I'll go Thunder Spurs. Although I would not be surprised if it's Thunder Nuggets. I really wouldn't. You know, as our buddy who just said hello, Mitch says it best. The Nuggets are the scariest team in the playoffs every year. Um, but Thunder Spurs, and let's go. Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate over here. I'm gonna say the Pistons aren't ready yet, and I'm gonna go Cavs versus Knicks in the Eastern Finals.
All right, and then who wins the whole shebang?
I mean, if you don't pick the Thunder, you've got mental instability. That'd be like picking against the Dodgers right now. Like, who's going to win the whole thing? Like, the Dodgers. So, yeah, for sure, Thunder.
Yeah, if we go to the standings here, I don't know.
Can I answer?
Oh, look who decided to show up.
I would like to answer and weigh in.
Thanks for getting here, Mitch. I'm glad you had that call that went on for the first half hour of the pod, and you're here an hour and 11 minutes late. Let's crack it.
Oh, technically I'm 40 minutes late because that first half hour I was.
That's true. You're only 41 minutes late. Good for you, buddy.
You wanna call my bosses right now and tell them?
Don't threaten me with a good time, because I'll do it.
I would, as far as the West, I don't think this is even close. The craziest matchup that's gonna be fun to watch is going to be the Nuggets Spurs. If you watch the Nuggets Spurs all season, watching Wemby versus Jokic play is the premier matchup in the NBA right now. Like LeBron, Kobe, we never got or whatever. Like a lot of these matchups that we were always looking for. This is the NBA for the next 3-4 years. Is Jokic versus Wemby. It's gonna be so great to watch. But saying all that, I don't think I've seen a team as dominant as the Thunder, and since three-peat types of teams. You know what I mean? I think the Thunder just run away with this playoffs, and I don't even think it's close. The East doesn't matter. The one thing I will say is also look at the Rockets as an underdog. They got Durant halfway through the year or whatever. I think that's a massive dark horse that could upset some teams that isn't being looked at. But on the East, doesn't matter, dude. None of those. There is no team on the East right now that can contend with the top four teams in the West. And I'm not even joking. It's not even close. But I do like the Cavs. The Cavs are interesting. So I'm gonna go Thunder Cavs, which is weird to say.
I also think it's funny, like in most sports, I'm always like, I mean, I all like the as a Laker fan, you're kind of rooting for the 3 seed. I mean, eventually you have to go through the Thunder, but we take consolation prizes when you suck for so many years. And you're like, oh, if we could just make it to the Western Conference Finals, that'd be cool. Maybe we get to play.
You'd have to play them in the semis, right?
Right. Well, no, now we do. But the reason that they didn't get the 3 seed is because the freaking Nuggets rattled off 12 straight wins, including 2 wins over the Thunder and 1 win over the Spurs during that stretch. And normally you're going to pick the hottest team in basketball, but they finished 54-28, which also means that they were only 42-28. So they were struggling halfway through the season. They kind of like were down all the way to the 6th seed at one point. So Nuggets Spurs going to be a great series. I just think that even though they're the hot team, I think the Spurs are the better one. But I do agree that's going to be a really cool series to watch. But it's funny in most sports, I guess most sports, in sports that we all enjoy, the hot team going into the playoffs there's something to be said about that. But I just don't feel like that's the case in a 7-game series of basketball. In football, you're like, yeah, watch out for the team that won like 6 games to become the wild card team. A la Rams, a la Giants, from back in the day. Just doesn't feel the same with the Nuggets.
I'm pretty biased towards Denver because I think Jokic has been the best player for the last 7 years, and I don't even think it's debatable. I think he's one of the most underrated players in all sports. But this kind of reminds me of those years where it's like there's always some better younger team that finished ahead of the Lakers in the standings. The Lakers never, very rarely finished as a 1 or a 2 seed, and most of the time they'd win in the playoffs, a championship or whatever as like a 3 or 4 sometimes. They did it one time as a 2 seed. So this kind of reminds me of like the 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 Nuggets kind of just like going in healthy because the Nuggets will win a championship whenever Jamal Murray is healthy. If Jamal Murray is healthy, the Nuggets are the best team in the NBA, and you can't change my mind. The problem is Jamal Murray is who is a good example? He's like Derrick Rose. He's just too hurt all the time. He's always playing 60%, 80%, whatever. If the Nuggets have an actual healthy Jamal Murray, they win.
Yeah, I could get down with that. I think that's fair, but I just I don't see it. I mean, I know. You know what? I think the Spurs are a better team top to bottom. Although I think the fact that Jokic doesn't win MVP every year is just a cop out. Even this year, as good as SGA and Victor Wembanyama have been,
Yeah,
Jokic is still my MVP. He
yeah,
should be. He's the Otani debate, Mitch. I think we can
yeah.
agree. He is the Otani. He is so good at everything across the board that it's impossible to not say that he's the MVP of the league, and yet they give it to other people, and there's no reason they should ever give it to somebody else. Like I don't care
Oh,
how good SGA or Victor Wembanyama is. When you look at Jokic, like top 10 in rebounds, top 10 in assists, top 10 in points for, top 10 in efficiency, and not even top 10 sometimes, like number one in some of those stats. You're like,
yeah, he's like top
this
five in
guy,
most of those.
this guy is the Shohei Ohtani of basketball and gets zero credit for it. Zero.
Yeah, if he was American, he would be LeBron basically. But um, yeah, and Jokic also has like this personality where he pretends not to care. Obviously, he probably doesn't care, but he plays into that a little bit, so that also kind of feeds into it. Yeah, I
Could you
agree.
imagine
Like,
if LeBron was putting up Jokic's numbers, would he be a six-time MVP 6 years in a row?
yes. LeBron also was doing it on more stacked teams, so that worked against him. Jokic has got Jamal Murray. Like, Jamal Murray's not even half as good as Dwayne Wade. Like, so it's like, and that team also had Ray Allen, Chris Bosh, and then you could go to other, the Lakers years, Dwight and all that. So it's like, Jokic has done the most with the least by far and away. I don't know how Denver doesn't get him more help. If this was a different type of superstar, like in the NFL or something, he'd be demanding his way out for sure. For sure, but Jokic is kind of low key with a lot of this stuff, so it doesn't. But yeah, the one thing I will say for the Spurs is you can see how teams play Jokic in the playoffs differently than the regular season. We have not seen Wemby in the playoffs. How are these teams going to match up? The rotations get tighter, the type of people who guard the players. A lot of times in a December game, it's like, hey, I don't want to go out and guard Wemby for 42 minutes. Like, it's not in anyone's best interest. It's better to find other guys, maybe some rotation, try these things out. Well, playoff time, it's going to come down to if we can't do it, we're just going to start fouling them. Let's start seeing let's start hacking Wemby. You're going to see these. We've never seen it in the playoffs. We don't know how a lot of these great defensive mind coaches, the days of like George Karl coming up with defensive schemes that are just insane. So it's like, what's going to happen? I'm very interested to see the rotations and how these defenses are going to actually play Wemby. We've never really seen that. So that's why I'm very hesitant on the Spurs and like how dominant he could actually be in a 7 game series. You go out and play one person one day, one night, different than a 7 game series. So
Hey, good news, good news, Alex. Mitch just walked right back into our conversation from earlier. Guess who they don't have to worry about for 42 minutes a game? Victor Wembanyama.
yeah.
Because you want to know why? Guess who averages 29 minutes per game, yet is still up from the MVP discussion? Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, you cannot win a 7 game series playing 29 minutes a game. I don't care what anyone says.
I mean, people's playing time will go up in the playoffs.
For sure. Can his efficiency and all of his other numbers stay the same? Because with Jokic, I know it can. You could play Jokic the whole game, and I know nothing's going to change. We don't know for Wemby yet, and we've seen teams throw the house at Jokic and Anthony Edwards, some of these other defensive schemes. It's like I'm very interested to see the defensive matchups that they're going to put on Wemby.
All right, well, that's our NBA talk. Now that Mitch is here, I guess we can transition to the NFL. Gentlemen, the NFL draft is coming up here later this month, very soon. Any interesting draft action you guys think is coming down the pipeline? Any draft day trades that you sniff on the horizon? Any big surprises in store? Or do you think it's going to be kind of cut and dry?
I think the surprise for me will be if the Titans or Giants select Jeremiah Love, because I cannot think of a worse decision for those franchises to make than selecting a running back in the top 5. And there's a lot of rumors that they both love him, they both like him. Like, these are terrible teams. The Giants already went down this road with Saquon Barkley. Like, that did not solve all of their things. I personally think Mendoza is good. I also think the value of the number 1 overall pick would do the Raiders a lot of good. We've talked about this. Like, trading him would not be my least favorite thing. But I also think he's going to be a solid player. So, yeah, I think my surprise is going to be Jeremiah Love, in my opinion, goes in the top 5, and I think he deserves it. But I think it'll be to a team that has no right drafting a running back in the top 5.
What are you and Alex expecting from Mendoza? Like, if I told you right now Mendoza's going to have the career of, let's say, Kirk Cousins, would you be cool with that?
Oh, I'd sign up in a heartbeat. I think he's going to be Mitch Trubisky, dude.
Oh no, that's
Yeah,
worse. I don't
Alex
know.
thinks Trubisky. I've actually seen a lot of comparisons to Matt Ryan, and
Oh,
I wouldn't be so
sign me up.
surprised.
Where can I sign? Can I agree to that right now?
No,
What if it's like a Flacco career?
oh,
No,
Ravens
because
getting calls inquiring about number 1.
Flacco wasn't any good until after he was over the hill and just bounces around throwing picks.
But he did win 2 Super Bowls.
No,
I
the
think one,
Ravens
yeah.
defense won 2 Super Bowls and he was the quarterback.
Yeah,
Was it 2? I thought it was
Yeah.
just 1 for Flacco.
I thought it was one, but he did carry them that whole that playoffs, Alex. I will kind of
In the
disagree with
playoff,
you.
yes, in the
Yeah,
playoff run he got hot and that's great, but like
yeah,
that
he was crazy good.
that's not how he was the rest of the season. Look, if you're telling me he's a game manager that will get us to the playoffs and then pop off in the playoffs, yeah, sign me up. But
Excuse me.
I don't think that's who he is. Like, just look at his college stats. They're medium at best.
Yeah. Um, what if it's like a Daniel Jones?
Which Daniel
Well, obviously
Jones,
that's
the
gonna
8 games
suck.
he played for the Colts, or all of his games with the Giants?
The whole thing.
Then no. Like, I do not have high hopes for Mendoza. I think this is an incredibly weak quarterback class. We have
Sure.
the first pick, and there's one quote unquote good quarterback who, yeah, he won the national title, but like, he was fine. He was a fine player on a good team. But when you have the number 1 overall pick, I'm not happy about drafting a guy who is fine. I want to draft an elite player at the number 1 pick.
For me, this draft's interesting from like 2 to 7. Usually it's locked all the way to like 5 or 6 spot, right? And it may be like maybe you flip two of those guys. Like one guy's supposed to go 4, one guy's 5, but they flip 4 and 5. You know what I mean? Like that's generally. But this year, um, if the Jets, Cardinals, Titans don't want to go like linebacker, which I thought the Titans were going to go linebacker over Jeremiah Love with Vrabel being there, but um, if they don't want to go because that's like the highest ranked guys, and they want like there's like 7 offensive linemen that are projected to go from like 8 to 16. So if you're one of these teams that want one of these offensive linemen and you like 2 or 3 of the 7, um, I think that this 2 to 6 spot could be very interesting this year with a lot of teams trading out of it because you can get those same linemen from like 8 to 15 as opposed to 2 to 8. So I don't know, man. It's a little odd because I've been hearing stuff like the Cowboys want to go up to 6 to get one of these linebackers, or 5 even. They want to get that safety, Caleb Downs or whatever. It's like if you want one of these linebackers, you're gonna have to probably pick 2 through 6. But if you don't want them and you want one of the linemen, you're over picking one of these linemen value. So I actually think it'll be interesting. The other thing that I would say to keep an eye on is the Saints. The Saints, if you look at some of their draft history, let's be real here. I was just, crash course history the last couple, last week or so. But if you look back in history, the Saints trade into the first round every other year. So in the last 14 years, 8 times, basically every other year almost, a little over 50%, they trade into the first round. So keep an eye on the Saints is what I'd say. And then just keep an eye on the top heavy teams that are looking for a lineman versus the defensive player. Because I think that's going to shape the whole draft.
Yeah, I don't hate him as much as Alex does.
Well, hold on, I
From
want
like
to
a
clarify.
Mendoza standpoint.
I don't
No.
hate him as a person. I just don't. I think he's just medium.
From an NFL player.
Yeah.
I think he's better. I mean, he's going to be the number one overall pick, and he's kind of been a lock to be the number one overall pick. I think he has those boring traits that you never really want in a quarterback because you want it to be exciting. You want him to be able to do all these different things. He looks too mechanical. He looks weird doing stuff, but the guy has excellent processing. He's accurate, and he has a strong arm. And I'm like, those are kind of the things. Like nowadays, people keep going for the Josh Allens and the Anthony Richardsons and the Caleb Williams and these guys who can scramble and extend plays with their legs and the Lamars. Not all of those guys hit. Like those guys aren't always the guys that hit. And when you look at some of the elite quarterbacks in the league, like from a winning standpoint, obviously you have guys like the Josh Allen who stand out, and then Lamar who every once in a while is kind of up and down as far as their wins. But like when you think of like historically the Drew Breeses, the Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady's, these like super accurate quarterbacks who can make the throws and win you games with their arm and maybe not their legs. I do think Mendoza has a chance to fit that profile. Like I think the comparison I've heard with Matt Ryan, I like every time I think it, I'm like, oh crap, like they are kind of similar. They're not very athletic. They're pocket quarterbacks. They have a strong arm. They're good with their processing and decision making. Like he might be a Matt Ryan, not elite, but top 10 in the NFL. And then you pair that with guys like Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty and an improved offensive line. Maybe he's good. Maybe he makes the playoffs at some point in his first 5 years.
Well, this is interesting for me. I think the NFL's at like a crossroads right now. Can you win in the NFL without an RPO quarterback? So obviously, Darnold, did really well winning the Super Bowl. Stafford's the opposite of an RPO quarterback, and he's done well. But if you look at most of the other quarterbacks that do well in the league, you have to have some kind of RPO threat. The average league for RPO was 10-12% for every team. So 1 every 10 plays, even on the Rams, they were running an RPO, like a threat of Stafford running. That's crazy to think about. So I think the reason why the Saints QB has done so well the last second half is because he runs. So if you look at this, the highest volume from week 10 to run the RPO, the Saints ran RPO 200 times, and that was league high second half of the season. And I think that's when Show took over, and he seems to be pretty good. So this goes to you guys as a question. You obviously can win without the RPO QB, but it's going to be, that QB has to be significantly better at throwing the ball than, like a Lamar Jackson or something like that. Look how Lamar did this year when they tried to let him run less. He wasn't even a threat. So my question becomes is...
Oh, go ahead.
No, my question just becomes, can you win in the NFL in today's time without the RPO when you've got teams like even the Chiefs ran a run-pass option with Mahomes, who's not considered a running QB. They ran it 18% of the time. So basically 2 out of 10 plays was a threat that Mahomes could run. Does he run? Probably not. But they still have the threat of that. Can Mendoza, or do you need the RPO?
I think in today's NFL, you either need to be able to run the football or you need to be a pure pocket passer like a Peyton Manning, a Drew Brees, that kind of caliber of player. And here's my concern when you look at his college stats. Like, sure, the QBR is great, the touchdowns is great, completion is great, I get all that. The yardage is a huge concern to me, and here's why. So let's go over some Heisman winner yardages, right? 2019 NFL quarterback Joe Burrow, 5,000 yards. 2018 NFL quarterback Kyler Murray, 4,900 yards. 2023 NFL quarterback Jaden Daniels, 4,500 yards. 2016 NFL quarterback Lamar Jackson, 4,900 yards. And you'll notice that a lot of these names that I've named, except for one, are also running quarterbacks who also threw for that much. Baker Mayfield, more of a pocket passer. He can still run, by the way. 2017, 4,600 yards. All right? And now let's get to guys that are known as runners. Cam Newton, 4,000 yards. Tim Tebow, 4,000 yards. Right? Yes, there are other names. There are some who are lower, not many. Most of them are higher on the list. But my point is, these guys had these seasons where they absolutely balled out. You mentioned Matt Ryan. Well, Matt Ryan's senior year of college, he threw for 4,500 yards compared to 3,500 for Fernando Mendoza. So, do I want him to be good? Of course I do. I'm a Raider fan, and we're terrible. I would love for Fernando Mendoza to be good. I love the fact that he has a ton of TDs with very few picks. I love the fact that he won a national championship. That's great. It's great. He's the right size. That's great. I'm super concerned about the fact that he can't run, and he only threw for 3,500 yards. That scares me.
Yeah. Interesting, back to that, not being able to run. Building off of that, what you and I were saying, Alex, is like the Eagles, they lost Kellen Moore, right? Play caller last year, then he goes to the Saints, right? The Eagles last year ran 284 RPOs. Last year they ran 110. That's over 50% decrease, and you saw what happened to that offense. So like, if obviously Jalen Hurts can run, so it's kind of like they could just implement more RPOs for that Eagles offense with the new offense coordinator and go back to how well they were doing, not last year, but the year before. So that's my concern is if you're going to come into an NFL that is predicated on this, 20% of your plays need to, 15 need to, it's just not going to be existing because no one's going to be afraid he can run. If he can run, this guy's an easily locked number one overall, in my opinion. Because on the flip side, this guy's going to be like what you want for a face of a franchise. This guy's going to say all the correct things, do all the correct things, inspire his teammates, work harder than everyone else. You know what I mean? But if that translated to success, then everyone would be successful. So it's kind of hard. Like, I truly don't know. And you know me, guys, I have an opinion on everything. So it's like, I don't know, in today's NFL, if you were the GM, let's just say you got hired, Alex, to be a GM of a team, like, taking a non-running quarterback in today's time is so scary to me.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
But you can't pass on Mendoza and still like the day that a team that needs a quarterback passes on a quarterback at number one overall and takes like maybe the safe pick or the smart pick, then I think the NFL will finally turn a corner.
I'm assuming in this conversation, Vinny, that they don't use that pick on a non-QB. They trade out of it, right? Isn't that kind of the assumption?
I mean, you would think that's the case.
They're not going to
You
just
know,
take an offensive lineman first overall.
no. But let me tell you this: if you had a coach that you wanted to coach a guy like Fernando Mendoza, who would you pick? I would pick the guy that just somehow turned Sam Darnold into a Super Bowl champion. So I think things could be a lot worse when you've got the Kubiak family tree and offensive history. I think it's a perfect situation for Mendoza. I do agree with kind of what you guys are saying about RPOs, but did you not see the game-winning touchdown that Indiana scored against Miami?
Yeah, he ran
Just
pretty well
saying.
there.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, that was impressive. And that's what I'm saying is maybe he's just not used that much in college in that offense, whereas it's not a problem for him. In that case, you guys have one of the biggest steals. It's not a steal at one overall, but like I think you guys got one of the best that you could possibly draft. Like, yeah, there's going to be those years where you have Jaden and Caleb and May, but it's like, for those 1 years, there's 9 other years. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think if he can run, I think you guys have a serious, legit franchise QB and are going to be good for a while. The other thing I will say that you said, Vinny, that I like is like, again, I don't know how much Tom Brady has involvement in this pick or say like for my job, if I was like, hey guys, I want this and this and this done, and then any owner came in, I have 5 owners that came in, and was like, no, this is what we're doing. It's like, I have no say. So it's like, does Tom Brady have a say over an owner or a GM? But if he does, and he goes signs off on Mendoza, Tom Brady is going to, this is going to be like, how do you say this? A testament to him. It's going to be a reflection of him. So he might be actually very invested in Mendoza's success. And if you have a active Tom Brady invested in Mendoza's success, I think you guys are in great hands. It'd be like
Yeah,
if
I
I
mean,
hired someone and then the owners wanted someone else hired. If I got the like, hey guys, no, I'm gonna go with my guy that I want to hire. I'd be very interested in that person who I just hired, their success, because it's a representation of me to the owners. So it's like if Brady's going into the owners and saying, hey guys, I he gets my seal of approval, then Brady's gonna be, you know what I mean? It's gonna translate to like basically a mentor. And that you couldn't get a better mentor, in my opinion.
but also, lastly, like, let's say the Raiders do trade out, or let's say they take somebody else, and like, who would it be? I don't think there's like you don't have like a Will Anderson Jr. in this class. You don't have um, I don't even know who else we can even put in that league of like elite edge player or offensive lineman who deserves to be like offensive tackle that deserves to be number one overall. Like you don't like the number two guy is not necessarily so much better than Mendoza that you even question it. You know what I mean?
For
Um,
sure.
I don't think, like you said, like if you're drafting 2 through 10 or whatever, like you're like, okay, it's pretty wide open. Like you could rank all those. Like there isn't like a clear cut. Like you're not going to just reach for Jeremiah Love because you don't need it. He's probably the best overall player in this draft, but he's a running back, and we all know that you don't necessarily invest heavily in running backs, unless you have the pieces put together. Like the Lions are able to do it. Like Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson are the perfect example. Like the Lions took Jameer Gibbs super high in the same draft that the Falcons took Bijan super high.
Correct.
Well, the Lions had a very good football team, and they're very competitive with Jameer Gibbs. The Falcons have a lot of needs to address, and Bijan's just kind of floundering on a mediocre offense and a mediocre team. Like
I mean,
that's what.
counterpoint, the Falcons were tied for the division lead and almost made the playoffs, but I get what you're saying.
I agree, and I also, yeah, the one thing I will counter to you, Vinny, is if you look back at the last three drafts, like Abdul Carter, Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau, these guys might have caused the need for these edge rushers. So yeah, I agree with you. 2 through 8 is wide open, but I do think the trend in the NFL draft is you have to go higher than lower to get the edge rusher. So like, if you do truly want one of these linebackers or edge rushers, you're probably going to have to take them 3, 4, 5, like the
Oh, I
Abdul.
agree.
Yeah, okay. So
I
if
agree.
you
I'm
so
just
if
saying,
you're the
like, none
Cardinals,
of
like
these
if
guys in this draft are good enough to take over Mendoza. So no matter what happens, Mendoza is the number one pick, right?
would you take
Um,
Travis Hunter over Mendoza?
no,
Would you
I
take
wouldn't.
Abdul Carter over Mendoza?
That's a little biased because I mean, he wasn't that good as a rookie. So, no, I mean, I'm going to say no. Would I
Would you
take
take
Aiden Hutcherson over Mendoza? Maybe. The guy's been a stud.
Michael
Um,
Williams was another top edge guy taken.
no.
Um,
If Will Anderson Jr. was in this draft, I think yes, you probably take the edge guy over him. He was like the number two overall pick the same year that
yeah, which by the way came
that
from the
Bryce
trade.
Young went first.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So
but
it's like to get one of those guys, you probably will have to take him 3 or 4. So that's why I was saying earlier is like if you want to target a lineman, a Joe Alt or these Will Campbell, Membo, some of these guys that are taken last year or whatever, those guys go closer to like 5 through 10 because it's kind of like, yeah, Joe Alt's amazing, don't get me wrong, but like if you, as long as you get one of these top three guys, that's kind of the sentiment. So if you're the Cardinals or the Jets and you're like, hey, time to build our offensive line now before we get a quarterback or whatever, you could probably get out of that 2, 3, 4 spot and go to like the 8, 9, 10 and still get the same lineman you want. That's the interesting part to me is
yeah.
what GM, and could you imagine? This would be such a great job. Imagine, Vinny, you're sitting in the office and you got the draft coming up and you have the number 2 or 3 pick and you're like, man, I could shop this around and move 5 picks and play the game and just hope my lineman falls to me, or I can overdraft the lineman. You know what I mean? That'd be so, I mean, obviously it'd be stressful, but like, could you imagine what they're thinking right now or who they're calling? So it's like, that's the fascinating part to me.
I mean, to me, it's if the Jets really liked Mendoza and they're offering pick swaps of like 1 and 2, and also they throw in like a first round pick next year. I don't know how you say no because there's no way the Jets don't finish in the bottom of the league again. And then you
For
get to take a
sure.
stab at whoever, you know. So, um, you get the Raiders have a lot more than just a need for a quarterback, and maybe it's like, hey, maybe that's on the table because they did sign Kirk Cousins. Like, hey, you know what, we can actually be respectable this year, rather than just mentoring. So maybe that was kind of the idea. But hey, guys, it's been a pleasure for me. I gotta run. You guys keep talking football. Go Raiders, go NFL, and I am pumped for the NFL draft coming up soon.
Yeah. What day is it exactly? I forget.
What do you mean?
It's
What day is it
April
today?
23rd. No, no, no. It's a week from tomorrow. Sorry.
You want the draft? Yeah, the draft is next
Yes,
Thursday.
week
Yeah,
from
yeah.
tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I can figure out what day it is today, but that
Yeah,
was
that's why I was like, dude, I get that you're 41 minutes late, but surely you know what day it is.
no. I was just saying like we'll have one. I was wondering if we had one more podcast before where we can dive deep into it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're able to do a pod next week, we'll maybe go further in the draft. Anyway, Mitch, good to see you. The pod's
Yeah.
actually been going for a little while here. Did you have any sports takes or sports things you wanted to talk about in the 3 or 4 weeks we've been gone? Normally, I have a lot prepped for us, like I told Vinny and the listeners here. I was out of the country for 2 weeks. I did not keep track of a lot of American sports. Not that I didn't want to. It's just I was in Romania and I don't speak Romanian. Spoiler alert. So I didn't really know a lot that was going on when I was watching sports on TV. And most of the sports I was watching was handball. Handball was on a lot. Interesting sport, to be honest with you. Not fully understanding the rules, especially again, did speak the language, but I don't really make this a handball podcast. And I'm not talking about slices. I'm talking about the actual sport handball.
Yep, yep.
So any
Not four square, eight square
sports?
Lord of the Rings. No eight square Lord of the
Hey,
Rings. No that.
I would do a podcast about Lord of the Rings 8 Square anytime, but maybe we wait for Vinny and Chris to get back on the pod for that one. So yeah, anything happening in the world of sports, in any sport, over the last 3 or 4 weeks that we've been off, that you wanted to address?
Yeah, I think the last time we were on, I went out on a limb and said, "This is the best I've seen the Lakers in over a decade. Not even since the 2020 season when we won with LeBron and Dwight in the bubble. Like this is the best I've seen the team since like 2013." I went on that, and then the last 2 weeks, everyone got hurt. Every single person got hurt. We were playing Bronny James serious minutes the last 2 games, Alex. Like we were losing to well below sub 500 teams. Like it wasn't even just Luca. It was Reeves. It was everyone. Aiton. It was all these guys who were just like. And the couple weeks before that, he's like, I know my role now. And these guys like LeBron's found his role, as like the third option basically, and all these things. And then like boom, 5 guys on the injured. I'm like, well. I really wish I would have held my tongue a little bit longer. So, yeah, forget everything I said about the Lakers a couple weeks ago, guys. They're going to get smashed with all these injuries. I mean, they might even have trouble with the Rockets. I'm not even joking around there. That's sad to say.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that because I'm longtime anti-Laker. Obviously, it hurts because I am pro Luca, but I am anti-Laker, so it's tough because he is the Lakers now. Um,
Yeah,
but so that one hurts
no,
me. Not gonna lie.
he was in the whole month up until that comment before. I don't think people realized how dominant Luca was. He was like 40 every game. It wasn't. I'm not even exaggerating. It's
Yeah,
just like,
you weren't here earlier. We talked about how he's like the scoring leader, but he's not going to qualify for first team All NBA because of only getting
oh
64
yeah.
games.
Yeah, so everyone who listened to the pod a couple weeks ago, forget I ever said anything about the Lakers and just enjoy them getting destroyed in the playoffs. Don't get your hopes up. That's all I wanted to say.
Or if you're a Warriors fan, even though they're 37-45, they have a chance to make the playoffs. Such an absolute joke.
The only other thing I could think of, and I don't know why it's crossing my mind, probably with the NFL draft, but it's like any of the viewers out there, if you can think of any fun way to figure out our fantasy draft order this year, because like a lot of times we do it last minute and that limits our options. But hey,
What?
if anyone
What? No, we don't. For the last couple years, I've done the Wheel of Destiny, which I put a lot of work into. Thank you very much. Had some nice videos that were well received by people other than you, apparently. Like, yeah.
Alex, the Wheel of Destiny is biased as hell. Okay.
I mean,
The
this
Wheel
year
of
we did a
Destiny-
live Wheel of Destiny for the pod, but the 2 years prior to that, I put a lot of work into that. I spent a lot of time on that stupid Google PowerPoint presentation.
We need to check the Wheel of Destiny bank accounts or something because there's people in our league paying the Wheel of Destiny or they're writing some kind of code into it before or something, bro. Because the Wheel of Destiny is completely biased.
I'm just saying, if you want to find another way to do our draft order, that's one thing. But saying that, oh, it's a last-minute thing for Wheel of Destiny, that is a slap in the face to the guy who actually does all the work on the Wheel of Destiny.
Okay,
Thank you very
let me
much.
rephrase. I apologize. Sometimes, like, one league did, like, everyone picks a horse in the Kentucky Derby, and that decides your draft order. Well, you can't do that in August. That's all I meant, last minute. I didn't mean it, like, as against you. I meant, like,
You made
if
it seem
there
like
is
you were
something...
dissing the work I was putting in. I was like, screw you, pal.
I'm trying to get people to brainstorm a different idea than the Wheel of Destiny. It's more of a wheel of punishment for me at this point. Let's be
I mean,
real
it's
here.
given me 11th 2 out of the 3 years, and that's statistically the hardest position to draft to win from. So,
Yeah, so I think... I think you should be wanting to move on as well. Or you could play the odds and be like, there's no way it gives me 3 times, right?
yeah, we'll see. All right, well, any other sports takes before we wrap it up? And I'm happy to keep chatting. I enjoy this. I enjoy the pod, and hope people enjoy listening. So, I mean, I'm happy to keep going and have it be a long episode. I just, like I said, I don't have a lot to talk about because I haven't been keeping up with sports. Not that I didn't want to. I just was busy with other stuff.
No, the only other thing I could think of is this year we're gonna have to get Matt on an episode and make him give us his rankings, so then we can scrutinize throughout the whole year. Like, oh, were you lying to us, Matt? Because like last year, like I said, the Colts was the offense I was looking at, and I ended up having Jonathan Taylor. So it's like let's put Matt on record, and then let's see if he actually does it or not, and then we can just use that against him the whole year. That's my only goal this summer is, hey, on this special podcast, it's going to be Matt and all of his rankings.
Old strategy gotten. Yeah, it's
But, yeah.
good.
No, I was just saying, I do appreciate doing this and your patience, Alex. Like, these last 2 weeks I know you were traveling, but these last 2 weeks just flew by them. So, yeah, I hope we keep it going and everything's great.
Yeah, I plan to try to keep it going. I don't know that I'll be able to get you guys on the pod anymore because you guys are always so busy now. But I plan to try to keep the podcast going.
Full disclosure, like Wednesday at 4 is the owners meeting every week. So coming up here in a couple weeks, if I find out good news, then Wednesday at 4 is 100% locked away forever. And I apologize.
Right, but you said that was happening in May, and like so far you haven't been available Wednesday at 4 in the months of March or April. So
I finally started getting included on the meetings. These last 3 weeks, I've been on the meetings now. So I maybe overshot the deadline. It's May 15th, and that's still the deadline. But I did not anticipate being involved in these meetings before I've gotten the news or not. You know what I'm trying to say? I figured once they told me if I got the job or not, then I may not. But so yeah, my fault.
all good. I just like giving you a hard time.
And as you should.
All right. So yeah, I don't have anything else. Hockey playoffs coming up soon as well. We went over the NFL, the NBA playoffs. Hockey playoffs are also on the way. I think all the playoffs are decided here. Yeah, they are. So hopefully those will be entertaining because I know personally I think playoff hockey is probably one of the premier sports to watch. But yeah, that's all I got. I don't have anything else going on. Messi and Argentina are playing in Auburn coming up. But Dad's not going to be able to go, and he was like so upset about it. I'm also upset that Dad can't go because if he could go, I would be
Then
getting
you
to
could
go because
go.
he would buy me tickets. So
Hey, that is the one thing I have on lock, Alex. If you want to have any World Cup talk, I will talk for days on that one. I'm so excited. I love World Cup. You know me. I know the rosters inside and out. So any World Cup questions, please. All for it.
oh no, we'll definitely talk about it a ton once it comes time for it.
Yep.
But yeah, we're
We got a couple
still a little bit out on that. I just mentioned it because they're playing in Auburn soon. So anywho,
Yeah. I'm so excited for that.
yeah,
You have no
I'm hyped.
idea.
But that didn't start till like late June though, right? I think.
I believe so. Yeah, late June. So we'll have something over the summer, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm not
Content for the.
sure.
Thank you, World Cup, for giving us content for the pod.
The only reason they play for our content.
Yeah.
Well, that's the bracket from 4 years ago. Not quite what I'm looking for. Anywho, but yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate you being here and listening to us rabble. And next week, hopefully, we'll be back to more organized pod. Have more things planned. It'll be one last pre-draft show, and then the week after, we'll be able to break down the NFL draft for you and try to at least cover the fantasy relevant draft picks. But Mitch, Vinny's already headed out, so Mitch, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to all the Delvers out there, bud?
Delvers, missed ya. It's good to be back.
All right, and now I'm playing us out.